Hi, everybody. It is Tuesday, and I said I was going to at least get two of the monsters done for the Psionics book. Um, so, this is a continuation of Monster Monday on a Tuesday, and I said I was going to do the brain mole. So, take a look at that, guys. Yes, good black and white art there. That looks like somebody's having a very bad day. So let's find out about the brain mole and how you can apply it in your fantasy role playing games or sci fi game. I mean, let's face it, brain mole, you can, that can be anywhere. Mutant landscapes, alien planet, and you can reskin it, make it unique. You might have to change the stats for your system, obviously. But that's one of the reasons we're doing this. Not only because I'm also doing the Psionics book, obviously, for 2E, but the Monster Mondays, I've pulled stuff from way back when to other game systems, is to throw some ideas out there. Things maybe you haven't seen, like a lot of people play D&D, so yeah, but you haven't necessarily seen some things that aren't in the monster manual that are off of obscure publication, or a book from the 70s you probably don't have, or the early 80s from a third party, or another game system specific setting, like the GURPS monsters, sci-fi monsters I did, or the Star Frontiers. A lot of people haven't played Star Frontiers, so you would have never known somebody came up with those particular critters. There's others in Star Frontiers that are fun, and GURPS, and all across the globe. And yeah, there's more monster books. Goodman Games has come out with like a big one that honestly I want. I, I like that stuff. I like seeing what other people do. You know, can I make my own monsters? Absolutely. And that's another thing I have to do is Frontier Space by DWD Games has a really cool monster creation discussion. I think Star Frontiers might as well. So I might need to do like a special on those. I've already done the monster ecology from Arduin little article, um, because I want you thinking about your monsters. Um, you want good ones. You want to terrify people. So brain mole. What is it? Let's learn. Climate and terrain, any below ground. Frequency, very rare. Organization, family. All right. So, think meerkats. That's probably would be a good example. Kind of that family little pack orientation, right? Right. So go watch meerkats and think brain mole. Not as cute. Activity cycle, night. Diet, psionic energy. Intelligence, animal, and it gives in parentheses 1. Treasure, nil. Alignment, neutral. So it just wants to eat psionic energy. Okay. So I guess we put it under hungry all the time. Number appearing 1 to 3. Armor class 9. Movement 1. BR 3. Hit dice 1 hit point. Okay, so not a tough monster. That's not what makes it scary. Thaco, nil. Number of attacks, nil. Damage attack, nil. Special attacks, psionic. Special defense, psionic. Magic resistance, nil. Size, T, that would be tiny. 3 inches long. So this is, what would that be? About like yay? Morale, unsteady 5 to 7, experience point value 35. These small furry animals are nearly blind, and they look like normal moles. Brain moles are seldom seen. However, they live in underground tunnels, burrowing through the rock as well as the dirt. Usually, the only discernible evidence of a brain mole's presence is a network of blistered stone or mounded dirt above ground, which mark the tunnel complex. These creatures damage more than a landscape. However, brain moles feed on psionic activity. From the protection of their tunnels, they can psionically burrow into a victim's brain and drain his psionic energy. Combat. A brain mole commonly attacks its victims in forests or underground. In either case, the creature is usually out of sight in a tunnel. The mole either waits for a psionically endowed being to appear above it or burrows in search of prey. A brain mole has an innate form of psionic sense. It can automatically detect psionic activity of any sort within 200 yards. However, it can only feed upon psionic energy when its victim nearby within 30 yards if the victim is a psionicist or a psionic creature, or within 30 feet if the victim is a wild talent. The mole can't get a fix upon its prey until the victim usually uses a psionic power. Once it locates a victim, the brain mole attempts to establish contact. If contact is made, it will attempt to feed upon psionic energy. If the victim is a wild talent, feeding is accomplished usually using mind wipe. If the victim is a psionicist or a psionic creature, feeding is accomplished with amplification. A brain mole does not attack maliciously. It must feed at least once a week or it will die. Psionic summary says level 6. Discipline, science, devotions 2, 1, and 4. Attack, defense, MT/M subtract. So score 12 and PSP 100. We're going to have to discuss this brain mole here. What kind of ideas it can generate even if you don't use psionics in your game. Only has telepathy, science, mind link, mind wipe. That has a little 1 footnote, so we'll have to see what the footnote's for. Devotions, contact, and mind thrust. That's probably what the MT is. Meta psionics, devotions, psychic drain. That has a 2. No cost. Psionic sense. Okay, so the footnote for 1, a brain mole can perform mind wipe up to a range of 30 feet. The footnote 2, strangely enough, a brain mole must establish contact before using psychic drain. Furthermore, it can only perform psychic drain upon psionicists or psionic creatures. However, it does not have to put them into a trance or sleep first. It just starts siphoning away the psionic energy. Habitat. Society. Brain moles live in family units, which include 1 male, 1 female, and 1d6 young, one of which may be old enough to feed by itself. Large brain mole towns of up to 3d6 family units have been reported. Of course, these only occur in places frequently traveled by the psionically endowed. Ecology. Though brain moles can be dangerous to some, while others keep them as pets. Oh yeah, I could see keeping one of these as a pet. I can see why somebody would do it, totally. The moles are rather friendly, easily tamed. They are favored by royalty, who enjoy the special protection which only brain moles can provide. Some sages claim that even a dead brain mole can offer protection from psionic attacks, provided the carcass is worn about one's neck as a medallion. Sometimes nobles have been harassed by particular psionicists will send heroes out on quests for these little furry rodents. On the open market, adult brain moles sell for 50 gold pieces. Youngsters sell for 5 gold pieces each. Okay, so let's take a look at what they're telling us here. First of all, it has to have something to eat, whether it's in the wild or you're keeping it as a pet. So, there has to be somebody around with psionics or something that it can do its siphoning thing. All right? Now, as a DM, you're going to have to make some calls on how this is going to work in your play setting. They look like moles. They act like moles. They do mole things. Read up on moles, people. The reason I've had moles in my garden. They leave little mounds where they come up and down, and you can tell kind of where they've been based on the damage they've done to your garden. But they don't necessarily leave tunnels that are visible per se. You know, it's not that. It's not like Bugs Bunny mounting like you see in the cartoon. So read up on moles. You know, so you have a good way to kind of describe how moles act. I would do that. And like, because the players might just think they're dealing with moles. Like, what if you had a village where you had some people who were psionic in it? You have regular moles out in the fields, but they also might have some of these brain moles amongst those regular moles. That's another call you're going to have to make. Are brain moles a completely separate species? Are they a mutation of the normal species? And can the two occur together, or are they always separate in the wild? Some thoughts to think about. But obviously they have to have something to eat. So you need to have their prey. And it doesn't mean they're killing their prey, though. I mean, think of them like psionic ticks. Okay. Then you got to decide. So now we're going over to, you know, what they do. And they're siphoning off that psionic PowerPoints. Is the player going to feel that? Are they going to know that? What's it going to do to the player? So you need to think about that. Or is it just something like when the player goes to use their psionic abilities, you're like, it doesn't work, and they don't know why. Okay. So what's your danger level? What's your effect level? How are you going to make these work for your setting? All right. And if you want to model them after a mole-like creature in a different kind of setting, like an alien mole-like creature that fulfills that function on a planet, that's fine. Go with it. So if those are like scaly little lizard things that do go in the ground, make them scaly little lizard things that go in the ground. See what I'm saying? Or if it's a weird insect thing, make it a weird insect thing. You keep the ecology of what the critter does. I mean, it needs to have a normal look-alike. Okay, that's kind of how you reskin it. All right. Now, this part about keeping them as pets. Now, if you're keeping them as a pet, that means they have to have somebody who's psionic or something that's psionic that comes in weekly for this thing to feed on and keep it alive. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that the thing's getting killed. It doesn't mean that the person, let's say it's a person, is being killed. But they're probably a servant. They probably, or a slave. I know that's a nasty word in modern D&D, but in reality land, people are jerks and they do this stuff, and that's why we consider it a bad thing. People are jerks in NPC land, okay, of settings, who are unpleasant people with power, would, like the bad guy in Dune, the Duke, right? You know, I've seen both Dune movies. I'm thinking of the first Dune movie, you know, where he's in the, you know, red hair and he's floating around. That dude, this would be up his alley, man. If he had to deal, if he knew brain moles existed, right? He would have a pet brain mole to mess with the various psychic individuals in that setting. And he would have some people that he kept around with their little heart plugs. God, that was good stuff, that movie. That I really need to finish reading Dune. I started when I was a kid. I've got a copy now, so I don't have an excuse. I better finish it. It was just, I got sidetracked. And so his character as a guy in power would in fact keep something like that. He would have servants or a servant who he kept to feed it, because that's the kind of guy he is. He wouldn't keep a critter to feed it. He'd keep a person, and there'd be something over them that he had that would make them willing to come in and be drained and live in this near slave state, because it seemed like his people were slaves. They were just, it was sucked to be under him, right? And his rule. And he would have one of these to mess with the sisters and the guild and all those people who had abilities that he didn't have. So he would have them, definitely. All right, so you got to have that set up, you know. But in D&D, it could be maybe someone's hired to come in and feed the brain moles, suck a little energy, right? So it doesn't have to be that scenario, but it could be dark, and it could be that kind of scenario. See? Now I said conspire. I said if you don't have psionics, but you could use this for inspiration. Traditionally, even though games can be totally balanced and have like divine magic, arcane magic, psionics, they could have it all, right? Including fraud, fake magic, right? The fraudsters, the charlatans, use gizmos and stuff to make the effects. All right. You could have all that in a game. Or what we normally see, and I've seen over the years, is the game kind of divided up on the stuff. Usually sci-fi, they're like, yes, psionics good, magic bad. And usually in fantasy, magic good, psionics bad. Okay, I'm just, don't ask me, I'm not, and you can't totally blame it on system. I mean, whatever the mechanics are, it's more than that. It's deeper than that. Seriously, it's philosophical. But let's say you do magic and you don't really do psionics, but for some reason you're watching my video. You could have a brain mole that siphons off magic. Now, depending on your system, some systems do have mana power. Their magic works on a slot system, not a slot system, but a point system. The points have been drained off. Now your wizard can't cast that fireball, let's say. Because when he goes to cast a fireball and he's feeling fine, and nothing happens, and nothing happens because he's been a victim of a magic siphoning brain mole. Or if it's slot based, like traditional D&D magic is, yeah, they studied their spells, they have them memorized, and when they go to cast it, nothing happens. You just tell them you blank. Even though and they'll be like, but I did everything. So, well, something is affecting you. You can't remember the spell. It's just gone. Yeah. Now, the other thing we saw here is that these suckers are sold in market. That means the players can go to a bazaar if they're psionic or if you've made a mutant magic one and accidentally feed one of these things because they're there, right? Means the players also, if they're not psionic particularly, or even if they are a little psionic, they can put themselves in a situation where they are out looking for these things. They're being human bait, okay? And catching these things to take to somebody to sell them to, who then will sell them at market. You can also have the traveling pet shop. Yes, got that from Father Ted with the bunny, the Plague of Rabbits episode. You can, in fact, do something like that with these. They can be something that people come across in an alien marketplace when they're visiting a planet. So you have a lot of options here to create something unique for your setting and to think how to implement it into your setting. I think this is a great fun monster, and even if you don't use psionics, you should do something with it. So, okay, there's part 2 of Monster Monday. Everybody, like, subscribe, comment, tell me, I don't know, you don't like this, share the video, whatever. Have a good Tuesday. I need to do one of the other things today. So I'm going to get this uploaded and move on to the next thing on my break here. But be safe. Have fun. Have a blessed day. Bye.